it still comes down to know me, treat me like you know me. You respect me as a customer. You're saving me time, but you're also introducing things to me that are meaningful and adding value.
Neue Folgen jeden Freitag. In dieser digitalen Welt gibt es einen speziellen Faktor, der über Erfolg und Misserfolg entscheidet: Daten. Doch nur die wenigsten wissen sie für sich zu nutzen. Wer seine Kunden verstehen will, um ihnen das bieten zu können, was sie brauchen, kommt um ein professionelles Datenmanagement nicht herum. Jonas Raschedi interviewt andere Experten aus den Data-Bereichen und zeigt Schritt für Schritt, wie genau das funktioniert.
Welcome to My Data's Better Than Yours, the data podcast. Yeah, welcome, Brian. It would be amazing if you could introduce yourself and where you're working, and then we can dive into the amazing topic of customer data platforms.
Jonas, thank you so much for having me on. I'm Brian Walker. I am joining you from my backyard office in Seattle, Washington. Maybe you can tell from the light that it's a little overcast here, kind of typical spring weather for us, probably similar to your listeners in Hamburg or Northern Europe, I would say. Yeah. Seattle's weather today. So pleasure to be here. I'm Chief Strategy Officer of Bloomreach. I am a longtime e-commerce and digital marketing community member. If you say I've played lots of different roles in the industry, from practitioner many years ago, launching e-commerce sites and working to drive those. I've spent time at Amazon and Expedia earlier in my career. I also led the commerce technology research at Forrester for quite a number of years. And during that time, I would say personalization and how we thought about bringing all these different kinds of solutions together was fairly nascent. And, the notion of a digital experience platform or how to leverage data to drive personalization and optimization was already, of course, something we were focused on as an industry, but it was really just starting to come into focus. And during my time at Forrester, also wrote about that and covered that in the market. I left Forrester to join Hybris. Many of your listeners are going to know Hybris as a commerce platform founded out of Munich, Germany, and spent some time there pre-SAP acquisition, and then worked at SAP for a number of years after that, leading strategy for the CX organization as we grew that business significantly. And then I've spent time at Accenture and various other stops before I joined Bloomreach almost 3 years ago now to help drive this strategy that we have here at Bloomreach, and obviously work closely with the ecosystem and our customers as they look to take advantage of our solutions or partner with us. And that's a little bit, I guess, about me. I have spent quite a bit of time in Germany and in Europe through my career, and so have always really enjoyed that. I'll admit I haven't been back over since the pandemic started, so it now feels like quite some time ago. Certainly craving the opportunity to get back over there, and I think here in a couple months I'll be starting to make some trips back over. I always say that you can intellectualize a market. You can talk to lots of people over the phone or, of course, now video conferencing, but you can't necessarily really understand a market unless you're really spending time there, face-to-face, meeting, and also taking in the atmosphere in a sense. So I'm looking forward to getting back over there. A little bit more about Bloomreach. You asked about. We're the world's number one commerce experience solution provider. We provide a commerce experience cloud that is comprised of really three different key solution areas that come together for some of our customers using all of our solutions. And then we have many customers who may just use one of the three. So we don't necessarily need a client to use all of them. We're a very composable solution in the language of today, all API first. Those three solutions are discovery, where we power search, merchandising, and product recommendations on sites. That, of course, is leveraging consumer and product data to really optimize, the product discovery process that is so critical in e-commerce and digital commerce environments. We provide a content solution that customers use to power their experiences across all their different channels. And of course, that's very tied in to the balance of our solutions when it comes to driving personalization and contextual experiences. And then the third is engagement. And that's where we have this powerful, capability to drive personalized marketing across email, across SMS, and into social channels, again, underpinned by this, very robust data platform that enables, single view of customer and enables you to understand, really in a real-time fashion, how customers are engaging, and then, optimize your customer journeys, leveraging AI and ML, and optimize that. I think the many people don't really know, in a sense, how big Bloomreach already is. To be honest, we're often considered kind of a hidden giant, in a sense, in the commerce technology and digital marketing, ecosystem. But we're already working with over 850 global brands. Some of those that your listeners are likely to recognize are Bosch, Puma, FC Bayern Munich, and Hertha Berlin. They're in the Bundesliga. My Jewelry, Yves Rocher, Rafa, a great cycling brand, Marks and Spencer. Of course, there's many others, and we're already impacting over 400 billion in commerce globally through our solutions. That's a big number.
Really,
if we were ourselves, right, a retailer or whatnot, right, we would be among the heavyweights, really only second to Amazon if you were to look at a market like the US even. So, we're already operating at significant scale. Again, all the solutions are cloud-based and all have AI and ML essentially woven into it. And what differentiates us is the fact that this data platform enables this personalization and optimization to aid the merchant, aid the marketer in achieving their business outcomes. And I guess that's probably enough as an intro. Sorry if I rambled there a little bit, but hopefully that gives you a flavor for who we are and who I am.
Now that's very interesting, and the three pillars of about your product. And I would like to jump back because the three pillars I think are based on a maturity level. Yeah, and I would like to use an analogy from the history. I think if you would ask a CRM analyst or someone who worked in a CRM department 10 years ago and ask the question, do you own all channels? He will say yes. And he will state, let's say, the not really newsletter or normal paper stuff and things like that. And if you compare it to now, if you will ask the same question to the CRM analyst, he will say for sure, or she, no, because there are more and more tons of channels and things like that. And that's the same, I think, for the inventory of shops, online shops. 10 products 10 years ago, and now 10,000 all want to be a marketplace like Amazon. So the way you tackle the user experience is totally different. Yeah. And that's why you need to find the right technology, the right methods to tackle this kind of, situation.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I think it's absolutely true. And I think there's, early days in the evolution of the digital channels, merchants and marketers were really hand tuning and making a lot of decisions about what the customer is going to see and so forth. And that was obviously connected to their merchandising and marketing strategies.
Yeah.
A long time ago, we learned that the customer is always smarter than we are. You can be a very talented marketer and merchandiser. And by the way, the brand narrative and the lifestyle that you are trying to represent and the ways you want to connect with customers and the lifestyle, or the problem you solve in a sense as well for a customer, right? Still very important. And it's not to suggest that data and AI and ML are going to replace those things, but to operate at scale, right, where you're talking about, many thousands of sessions a second or a minute, when you're talking about large catalogs, when you're talking about lots of different traffic, you really can't scale like that manual tuning, right? And hope to really optimize to each individual customer. And it's also, I think, really important to recognize that personalization is a way of being relevant to the customer, being meaningful to them, right? Listening to them, and making life, in a sense, their research and their shopping and so forth, or the tasks they're trying to complete, right? Because we work with a lot of B2B customers as well, and they're like the paradigm shifts slightly. Personalization is a benefit. And now many customers, right, will actually say, I like personalization when it's applied the right way and when there's some degree of transparency or interaction with it, which gets into another maybe topic for us to explore, which of course is this notion of zero-party data and how to leverage that, right? Consent-driven, absolutely. And so you're right. There's a level of scale there for a small business starting out. The volume of data that you're producing, for first and foremost, may not be enough to really optimize on top of. But we have to be realistic about that. But also your ability to manage the experience, if you will, and drive your strategies, or to enable things like product discovery. Those are at a different level of challenge. When you get to these larger businesses operating at scale, it becomes very important to leverage the data and leverage AI and ML, again, to complement what merchants and marketers are doing.
For sure, I think it's a combination of ideas from marketers based on technologies to ensure that you're building the right customer journey, right, on the right data. I think, Brian, you have such a great work experience. If you compare the US market with the European market and the Asian market, is there more or less, based on the maturity again, are they different? And if yes, how?
Fundamentally, I would say they are not different. Okay. So, I think now the channels that you're using, the kind of the norms that customers have around interaction can be different, especially when you're looking at Asia, right? You've got some different sort of marketplace paradigms, or super apps, Uber apps, what have you, that are aggregating these environments, and brands and retailers kind of have to operate within those in order to reach the customer and engage with them. And so, like, the need to drive a direct strategy, right, may be different today. But of course, there's a very high degree of digital maturity, and that has transformed dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years. And with the pandemic, even, of course, increasing that as well in Asia. I think we'll likely see over time that in Asia, you'll also see more emphasis on a direct to customer strategy evolve. I think that's a natural kind of evolution, if you will, but they're already operating at significant scale. They may not have access to the data that, as an individual brand or retailer, they would like operating in those environments. So that obviously changes the characteristics. When you look at the US and European markets, I think it's really about the dynamics around in-country localization, and the fact that many businesses have, in a sense, had to operate those individual markets somewhat independently, and therefore the business scale inside each one of those units is smaller, right? And so, in aggregate, it may be very equivalent to, say, a mature U.S. business. But it's just, in a sense, the dynamics of the market, right? You build a business in the U.S., you're you're going after, a pretty significant audience, right? And a significant market, essentially one language. I mean, it could be multiple languages, obviously, but essentially one, maybe two. And you're operating within kind of one business, and your ability to hit scale, right, in a sense, is faster as a result. And then, there has been sort of a difference in direct marketing strategies and customer acquisition strategies. And we see that play out in our business in terms of how, and again, this is changing. It's been changing relatively rapidly in the US market, and in a sense, adapting more to some of the paradigms and thought processes that European marketers have been thinking about for much longer. So in a sense, the fundamentals are the same, but there's obviously some unique differences for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I don't want to blame Europe, but I think in Europe there are more currently discussions about on-premise or cloud, how to, so more or less big data starts when Excel crashes, and that's crazy. And I think that the maturity level in the US is higher compared to the European market. And we need to, I would like to raise a flag for the European maturity needs to increase to ensure that we tackle more or less a new situation, to push the marketing and to establish more D2C brands, which can more or less coming from Europe into the US market instead of US market into the European market.
I'm really
for example, data silos in Europe
absolutely. Data silos are a real thing. I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging here, but there is, I think, an interesting cultural difference in business, where I think in the U.S. market we absolutely have laggards out there who are not, have yet to really invest in a digital first strategy, of course. But because of the rapid growth and the transformation of direct to consumer, starting with catalogs, but then obviously transitioning, I think we've seen a more aggressive investment strategy, right? And that's somewhat due to maybe a culture of growth-based initiatives and kind of investing to achieve growth. And some of that's also fueled by venture capital and private equity, even in a sense. In Europe, I want to be sensitive to this because I don't want to sound like I'm, an authority here or whatnot. But there is a difference, I think, when you've got maybe a bias toward a more conservative outlook for technology investments and even for embracing digital channels or a direct-to-customer strategy. Some of that's because of the distribution challenges and the ways in which business has been organized to deal with cross-border trade now for obviously, essentially history. And so there's good reasons for some of that, but there is this sort of cultural difference that I think, to your point, kind of raising the flag, so to speak, for it. I think it's important that European businesses recognize that, all of these trends that we've been seeing for a very long time, they need to really take seriously and invest in order to ensure their future growth opportunities, and then to prepare them to kind of maximize their business as we continue, right, this transition into a digital first, mindset and go to market strategy for these brands and retailers.
I think there's an opportunity because GDPR is a very hard topic, but if you tackle it with processes, you have the chance to use it as benefit. And I think the European market, especially the German market, is very good in processes, in to align things. And
I'm shocked to hear that.
and that they are, yeah, that's a great opportunity to go ahead, right? To use, as you mentioned, this party data. So based on consent, the data which now could be used for marketing, could be used for, as you said, for on-site search, for merchandisation things, recommendation, and that's more or less the data is the new oil. But that's the really the gold nuggets, to use those kind of information of data to more or less improve your business.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think that it's kind of unfortunate in some ways that really since we started, now many decades ago, down this path, personalization and using data and using these techniques sort of naturally sort of seemed creepy. Like the customer isn't really in control and so forth. And that's certainly still true in some respects, the way many use retargeting and so forth. But that, of course, we're into a fundamental transition, in part through data privacy regulation, and then obviously folks like Apple and Google making some fundamental changes to how customers opt in. And clearly that's shaken up, the existing paradigms around online digital marketing and the use of third-party data, right? And I think that's a healthy change. I think that, back to your point, though, if customers sense and see that you are responding to their inputs, you ask me, and then you respond to that by actually showing me what I care about. I use an example, I'm a snowboarder and a fly fisherman, right? Those are sort of nice. And I play soccer, but those are like the things that I do. But when I visit a brand, or when I'm receiving marketing from a lot of these brands, it's as if they've never seen me or heard of me before. Yeah. And they're showing me things that really aren't very relevant to me. The brand that really does send me like the latest fly fishing gear, guess what? My open rates for that email are probably much, much higher, right? And I've learned to respond to them. And it's because they are actually listening. Now, they could have actually been even more explicit. And I encourage brands to do that. What are you interested in versus what are you less interested in? Now, each session could be different, right? And it's important that we realize that I might show up one day and actually be shopping for a gift or something for someone else. And I, of course, should be able to change the context of my experience, like that. And the experience has to adapt in session. And that today, Bloomreach, we do that by paying close attention to how a customer arrives at a digital experience through marketing and in what context, and then obviously how they're navigating and searching, and the experience that they're kind of creating and adapting. But I'd also say using zero-party data, actually asking the customer, is another way we should really be fine-tuning the channels we're using, the messages and the products that we're putting in front of a customer. And it all comes down to a great, data platform capability being important to enable that. I mean, that's a prerequisite, but I think there's a big opportunity there to evolve. And I think the customer is going to respond favorably to that. If you're a great quality brand and, you're producing and selling products that, that connect to me, I'm going to be willing to share that information with you.
Yeah. You need to understand your customer. You need to understand the pain points. As you said, Brian, you need to listen to them and then change the way, in best case, in an automatic way, how you promote things or how you market things. All right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very important point. Again, if you going back 10 years ago, you had the situation that you're having one marketeer sitting in front of the homepage, changing the teaser and more or less putting 5 new products in the slider to ensure that there are the new things to promote. And now if you're having, let's say, thousands of visits on the homepage on sessions, you need to ensure that you tackle each session in a different way, right? Because you could be a new user, I could be a new user or a returning user. You would like to buy something for your hobby below $200, and I'm below $100, and that would be amazing, yeah.
And then there's scenarios like replenishment, right?
For sure, that's amazing.
That are producing products
so easy.
that are consumables, and why not just make that a whole lot easier on your customer versus making them have to go through the process again every time?
Yeah, and that's what you said. I'm not sure how you've grown up, but I think in my small city here, there was one small store, right? Old lady, very, let's say 20 square meters, very small. And when you visit the shop and the shop and the shop again, that situation is that she knows what you would like to get. So now it changed to a bigger discount store, and the situation is that nobody knows you. You are more or less an unknown customer. And now the shopping experience is totally different. But if you find a way to tackle this personalization again, you have a lot of more happy customer, returning customer, and they are having more fun to promote your brand, right? And that's the situation.
What I love about that analogy is that it just goes back to kind of first principles, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is all about just, how we naturally as human beings actually do want that kind of a relationship. Unfortunately, not all of us have that, still where we live, and the economics for those small shopkeepers and so forth have fundamentally changed, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of reasons why things have evolved and changed, but it still comes down to know me, treat me like you know me, you respect me as a customer, you're saving me time, but you're also introducing things to me that are meaningful and adding value.
Yeah, if you compare it to technologies like Bloomreach, I think there could be a directly uplift for things because there are easy things to implement, right? So you don't have a implementation phase of 2 years because the low hanging fruits are already there, or I'm wrong.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I quite got it.
Sorry. I think there are low hanging fruits. For example, for Bloomreach, because the easy things like listen and listen again, that you understand that when Brian or Jonas comes back on a website, they want to replenish things, and you just need to show the product again in the slider or where they return on the page. That's very easy. So it's not really a big case to integrate the easy things.
I think that there are definitely lots of areas for low-hanging fruit, and even the use cases like I'll mention are not really new ideas, but the reality is that many businesses have really struggled, right, to implement these, right? And that's as simple as, presenting the customer with, an offer, a product, right, in your email marketing, and making sure that the experience they see on the site once they get there, or the app, right, is consistent, right, and and you're not just sending them on yet another task to find that thing that they responded to, and frankly, that is in many cases not happening. Also, taking your segmentation that you're using to drive your marketing, and then using that more effectively at scale within the site experience. So, for example, customers who are using engagement from Bloomreach, they're going to do some fine grain, highly adaptive segmentation. Again, it scales, so the AI can help enable identification of segments, et cetera. And then what's really meaningful is then taking that and informing your product discovery, your search solutions with that. So you're able to drive the product discovery experience in a way where the right products are showing up first in search, or being ranked higher in a category page. And especially for large catalog businesses, this very simple idea has very profound results. Some of the customers we have who have implemented that are seeing 8 to 10% lift on revenue per visit. That's a massive improvement by tying your channels essentially together and ensuring that it's a consistent, relevant experience for the customer. And again, those aren't like profound, new concepts, but they're unfortunately very hard for a lot of businesses to do today. Again, back to data silos, different applications powering these different experiences, not integrated, et cetera. That becomes, unfortunately, far too challenging for most businesses today.
Yeah, if your recommendation is more or less, you could compare it with A/B testing. I think A/B testing, there was in the first evolution, there was A/B testing, then there was multivariant testing, and now I think we're coming back to A/B testing, but we are more or less finding micro segments which are working better than A or B. So more or less having microsegment as C. So, and that should be more or less the strategy for the future for companies, right? You need to, for sure, grow your customer base, but additional to that, you need to ensure that the attributes at the customers is growing as well, so that you don't segment by demographic, because you should segment by all tons of attributes which are related to the customer, to ensure that you're finding lookalikes, that you're finding different ways to tackle recommendation and all of those kinds.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think, rich customer attribution is critical. It's something that if you are in the market for a CDP, you have to really understand the extensibility of the platform that you're looking at, and make sure that it can really enable the scaling out of the customer attributes. And then you apply processing on top of that, right? Which only amplifies the number of attributes that you can actually use to identify the customers into these cohorts and to leverage segmentation. But equally important is also the product catalog. You need to have a very well attributed and rich product catalog. Both of those processes require AI and ML to really enable it. So that's one of the things that we have at Bloomreach, for example, in our product discovery solution and in the data platform that underpins it, is using AI and ML to leverage the customer traffic, to leverage the way they search, to enrich that, right? Again, you as a business are only going to have so many attributes defined. Yeah. It's a very expensive process to enrich or even to write the copy. So we use AI and ML to really round that out and enrich it, create all the synonyms and semantics, and also language variations and so forth around that. And then you pair those two things together. Ultimately, that's what's required to enable like real commerce experience personalization. Yeah.
I think that product data is totally underrated. If you, as I mentioned, all companies want to be a marketplace, and they don't prepare their own product data for merchandising, for marketing, for all of this stuff. And if you check the internal search of shops, they are crazy. Yeah, you're searching for a brand within a shop. You don't find a hit, and then there could be the situation that you get something recommended, but there's nothing more or less for our error page. That's crazy. And there are so many ideas, so many good opportunities to help the customers to be happy, so that your own business grows. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think, many of your listeners are going to appreciate this point, because if they're focused on CRM, if they're focused on marketing and leveraging customer data, they're I am sure recognizing that if they can just, move the needle a little bit in terms of repurchase frequency from their existing customers, they've got a massive win, right? Yeah. And customer acquisition has gotten a lot of attention over the last, 10 to 20 years naturally. And it used to be cheap and it used to be pretty easy. It's no longer cheap or easy. And now you've really got to focus on making the experience and, optimal for the customers you have, and driving that frequency of purchase and that, loyalty that kind of comes from serving them effectively. And so it comes down to deploying these kinds of techniques in order to do that.
Yeah, if you tip from my side, if you check your customer data with the retention frequency and monetization model and analyze, you will see you will get a matrix of your customers, and there will be the situation that you will have more or less, let's say, A segment for customer, B segment, a C segment. And that's what Brian said. If you more or less helping the B segment to grow into the A segment, that you will see a lot of improvement within your business, because, for example, replenishment is an easy one to tackle that and to establish a growth for years, because that's a technique which works for years. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then if you compare it to cohorts, and if you let's do a A/B test, tackle one cohort with the new methods, and other one could be excluded, then you will see that there will be improvement. Yeah. To be honest, I think customer data platform is the new buzzword, and it's trending. And is Bloomreach different to, let's say, the buzzword, or what is the difference? What are the key benefits of Bloomreach as customer data platform?
Yeah, Jonas, I appreciate the question. I think you're the one writing the book, so I want to be careful here but I think the term customer data platform is a little bit problematic, because there are different flavors kind of in the market, sure, and it can be very confusing for customers to understand, like, the direction they want to go, have a clear sense as a business about what's the right, type of solution for them. And even the vendor community gets a little confused, right? To be perfectly honest. And certainly the analyst community and others, in my opinion, could really help kind of the market understand. And as I bring that up, it's because there are solutions in the market that are really focused on essentially the data infrastructure, enabling many different sources of data together and driving a single view of customer. That's a great thing. The problem is, what do you do then? They're kind of disconnected from what you're going to do to actually take advantage of this investment you've made. And so connecting the CDI, customer data infrastructure, or CDP, as many would call it, to those channels in order to activate it is still problematic for many businesses. And this is part of the reason why we've had a little bit of a trough of disillusionment, to use Gartner's term, where, there are some projects out there that have cost a fair bit of money, and it's very hard to point to the ROI, right?
Yeah.
Because there's this disconnect between the activation on top of that and the data infrastructure. Bloomreach is a little different, to answer your question, in that we really closely pair the data platform with the activation through the various ways we talked about earlier. And that's a little unique, right? We have a handful of customers who only use us for CDP, but really, if that's what they're trying to do, we may not necessarily be the best solution, because where we are going to really deliver tremendous benefit is where a client is looking to activate their marketing channels, tie their customer experience together, drive these journeys, but then optimize them, right? Leveraging the AI and ML. And so, in a sense, I don't want to say we're not interested in working with customers like that. Of course we are. But if they're not buying into like a bigger problem that they're trying to solve, and they're only looking at the data platform piece, That's maybe a little bit of a mismatch, if I'm perfectly honest. So there's that element that I think is really critical when it comes to customer data. And that is what kind of distinguishes Bloomreach. Another area that is often kind of a differentiator when we're working with customers is our commerce focus. We are uniquely focused on commerce, working with customers primarily who are driving digital commerce channels or who are omni-channel businesses that are trying to stitch together their digital and offline or digitally enabled channels, as I say. And so because we're focused on that, our data platform also is very attuned to what you're trying to capture, what you're trying to optimize, what are the KPIs you're trying to affect, what do merchants and marketers inside these businesses care about, making sure that the tools are also easy for them to use to get done what they want to get done. So those are probably the two things that I would really focus on that makes us different. And again, pairing the customer and product data that I talked about, we are very unique. And it's why I introduced the Bloomreach earlier in the conversation as a commerce experience cloud, right? Because we are very focused on that. And we see marketing as an extension of that experience.
Yeah, I think if you have more or less a slogan for maturity, it will be more or less having more data than insights, then having more insights than actions. And for sure, you need actions to grow your business, right? And if you have more data than insights, you need to think about establish a central data warehouse. And then if you would like to improve your marketing, you need to find a solution to put those data, which are more or less central, and a combination of the marketing things like Google Ads data, Facebook data, and so on and so forth into a CDP and then activate it in offsite and for sure on-site, because if you're having a great offsite experience, you need to ensure that you have the same on-site to get the purchase.
Absolutely. And, I think something kind of interesting there too is, if you're looking at reports, let's say you're doing testing and you're, monitoring the performance of things very closely, and you're looking at reports and then making decisions and then trying to act on those decisions, you're probably too slow. And so, it's also how leveraging AI and ML enables that scale that we were talking about earlier, right? You have to enable the system to adapt essentially in real time to the customer in order to really get the full benefit. If you're, leveraging reports and trying to take action on them, you're very limited in what you're going to be able to accomplish.
Yeah. And you don't want to scale your costs, right? You want to scale your revenue. So if you employ more and more people to tackle the action, it would be a mess. So you need to ensure that there's a lot of automatization to ensure that you're more or less real time or near time to help customers.
And just maybe an important point, I think, given the audience here, I think, for us, we take data privacy, security, and compliance very, very seriously. In fact, the Bloomreach CDP, I think, was the first or among the first to be certified under the GDPR regulations when they first came out. And, we have a team very focused on enabling that. So none of the things that we're talking about are in conflict with, ensuring that you're respectful of the customer's data privacy and in compliance. And, the customer should always be in control, of their data. I fully believe that, and the company fully believes that, and our solutions are built that way. So the kinds of things we're describing here by no means are in conflict with ensuring that you're operating within the right framework.
Yeah, it's a very important point, as we already mentioned, that you need to respect the consent of the user or customer to ensure that you could use additional to that, the zero party data to improve the customer
Absolutely.
journey. Yeah, I think that's a very important point to understand the background of the buzzword customer data platform. It's very important to understand that you need to more or less check your business. And if you have 3 pillars, let's say ingest, model, analyze, and activate the data. So which customer data platform you need to choose. To be honest, in my personal opinion, is that the situation should be that you have an architecture beside of that. So you should have a data warehouse, data lake to have a central place for all of the data, that you could have your reporting and analysis use cases beside of the customer data platform, because you need within marketing, you don't need to be 100% accurate, right? So 99% is totally fine. But if you would like to have the business reporting, financial reporting with 99%, it could be critical. So so different use cases, different systems, and different speed. And you need to ensure that you have the right architecture.
And I should just add that Bloomreach works really effectively with other CDPs. That just adds more complexity there. But because we're very focused on the commerce experience and activating these channels, it's not even the case where a customer has an existing investment in sort of the infrastructure side wouldn't get value, right, from enabling their customer experience and marketing channels with the Bloomreach CDP. I know that's confusing, and but the reality is these things actually can pair together very effectively, because for a lot of businesses, they're focused on their data infrastructure really as an enterprise-wide requirement that they're trying to solve for, and they may not have really focused on the experience or marketing channel optimization when they were defining what they needed. So it is a complicated topic, and it's one where businesses need to really get the right inputs, get the right advice, and really think carefully about what they're trying to do versus just checking a box when they think about what their requirements are for CDP.
For sure. My recommendation is always search a experienced consultants company or something like that. Hire experienced people to ensure that you're tackling or getting the right strategy to tackle the
asking the right questions, really.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Or very easy asking the right questions. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I look forward to making the trip over, and maybe we can grab a beer together when I'm over.
Yeah, or doing fishing together, right?
There we go. Okay, come on over.
Yeah. I need to buy some clothes so that I could more or less getting into the sea. And my last question is always the same. If you need to describe your data business with a movie title,
the Bloomreach data business with a movie
or your own, up to you, Brian.
Oh my goodness, this one's kind of stumping me. This is a very
brain
good
teaser
question. Yeah, I'm not sure it's the best analogy, but it's just the movie that comes to mind because it is really one of my favorite movies, and it does combine MI and ML, AI and ML, and it does. Kind of lean us into the future, although, of course, it may be slightly dystopian, so we want to be careful with that. But I'm going to say Blade Runner.
Nice.
Yeah. You've got this melding of human and machine. It's starting to blur.
Yeah.
You're leveraging AI and ML, obviously, to do some optimization. Yeah. There's a question in there, obviously, about the right way to do that. And like I said, it's a bit dystopian, but it is obviously one of easily my top 5 movies. And,
nice.
Still a phenomenal narrative for us to think about, right? Philip K. Dick and do androids dream of electric sheep and that whole story. Forget about the remake that one. Let me just put that aside. But the original movie was pretty impressive.
I just opened my browser. I will put it on my watch list.
Oh goodness, yes.
Again. That's a good one. Nice. Yeah, thanks a lot. I will put all informations about Brian and Bloomreach in the show notes. So don't hesitate to search for more information and contact Bloomreach or Brian for more information.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.